in the heart of the Milky Way, on a vast artificial planet called Concordia. The Galactic Council of Civilized Worlds gathered inside a glowing crystal dome larger than any Earth city. Delegates from 100 alien civilizations floated, hovered, or stood in rows of shining seats, their different shapes and colors creating a living painting of power. All eyes turned toward the humans as the ship Odyssey slowly docked in the Council's ceremonial ring. The vessel was long, gray, and plainly built, no sleek curves, no radiant hulls, no exotic engines. The alien crowd whispered in amusement. The Arzani, tall and feathered, clicked their beaks in laughter. That's the best they could send. One asked. The Zolthan ambassador, resembling a walking reef, rumbled. They still use metal in their ships. Primitive. La Central platform. Earth's delegation stepped forward. There were 5 of them, 4 humans in formal navy blue suits, and 1 silent, silver machine with a human-like face and cold, glowing eyes. The lead human, Ambassador Myra Shao, bowed politely, her expression calm, even friendly. "We thank the Council for allowing Earth to observe," she said. Her voice was clear, her words precise, but her tone held something else, something unreadable. The Council speaker, a floating, multi-eyed being called Veldresis, waved a tentacle dismissively. "Yes, yes, welcome. You may observe the proceedings, as long as you remain silent." Laughter echoed. "Perhaps you will learn what true civilization looks like," the Varnathi delegate hissed, his 6 eyes blinking out of sync. Myra nodded, smiling politely. The humans took their place on the side, ignored by most. As the Council continued its debate, stray disputes, border claims, minor wars, Earth listened. No one noticed that the silver machine, labeled simply Observer, never moved but recorded everything, its eyes flickering faster than any could detect. During breaks, some delegates approached Mira with fake politeness. "Your species is charming," one sneered. "Still growing food in dirt, are you?" "No Neuralink births?" asked another. Myra only nodded, never rising to their bait. When the assembly ended for the day, the Earth delegation returned to the Odyssey. The halls were silent, the crew unusually quiet. Mira entered the command room, locked the doors, and activated a hidden console beneath the floor. A black screen lit up with red text. Operation Veil. Status. Mira typed in, Phase 1, complete. Galactic Council, unaware. Initiate Phase 2. Deep in Saturn's shadow, far from prying eyes, a signal pulsed through tight beam quantum. Lines, detectable, untraceable. On Titan, an entire moon vibrated as its core came alive. Buried cities powered up. Invisible ships began to rise from frozen hangars. And across the solar system, millions of humans, engineers, soldiers, tacticians received a single word on their encrypted implants. Begin. Back on Concordia, as the aliens drank and joked about Earth's first and last visit. None of them knew what they had just witnessed. Earth had not come to beg for entry. It had come to confirm one thing. The galaxy was soft, fractured, arrogant. Council believed Earth was backward. They had no idea they had just laughed in the face of a sleeping giant. And that giant had just opened its eyes. The skies above Titan were dark, covered in thick orange clouds that hid everything below from view. But beneath that heavy atmosphere, something incredible was happening, something no one in the galaxy could see. Deep under Titan's icy crust, hidden inside ancient rock caverns, the true power of Earth had waited in silence for nearly 70 years. The Council had seen Earth's slow, clunky, diplomatic ship, the Odyssey, and laughed. But that ship was a decoy, just a mask. The real fleet, the one built in secret, away from alien eyes, was about to rise. In the black controlled chamber beneath Titan's surface, Vice Admiral Kato Saito stood at the center of a glowing ring, watching as hundreds of status lights turned from red to green. Around him, human officers moved with quiet focus, and not one wasted a word. Above them, robotic arms moved across a vast dome, awakening enormous vessels that had been frozen in stasis. These were not the dull gray ships shown to the council. These ships were monster silent hunters with black, reflective hulls, razor-thin profiles, and engines that made no sound. They were not built to impress with beauty. They were built to win. The shipyards, buried in Titan's crust, were protected by layers of electromagnetic shielding and hidden thermal vents, making them invisible to all known scans. Sayo raised his hand and gave a simple command. Launched the first wave. From the ice below, the dark shapes began to rise. One by one, the real Terran warships emerged, each one bigger and more dangerous than anything the Council navies had ever imagined. They slipped into orbit silently, forming a precise formation above Titan without a single broadcast or flare. They did not announce themselves. They were ghosts, moving with perfect coordination thanks to AI command units. Embedded in each ship, linked by deep encryption channels, even the Council's best codebreakers would never crack. At the heart of the formation was the largest ship of all, Oblivion's Edge, a dreadnought so massive it caused Titan's orbit to adjust slightly. Beside it, a sentient AI known only as Kestrel ran predictive models at speeds faster than light, calculating every possible move the Council might make. And it had already seen the first threat. On the edge of the Sol system, beyond Neptune, a small fleet of Varnathi scouts had entered human space. They believed Earth was weak. They had come to probe, to take samples, to prepare for resource raids. They never made it back. Aboard the lead Varnathi vessel, strange readings had flashed across their screens, phantom signals, sensor shadows, systems shutting down for no reason. Before they could send a distress call, something tore through their hulls. It did not see what hit them. Their ships vanished, every last one erased in minutes. There were no survivors. The Council heard whispers of it, but dismissed them. Sensor error, they said. A wormhole collapse, said others. They still believed Earth was no threat, but on the Odyssey, docked safely at Concordia, Mira Shao smiled quietly. The reports had come in. The test was complete. The real fleet had moved for the first time. No enemy had escaped. Back on Titan, the next phase began. More ships activated stealth destroyers with warp skip drives, hunter-killer drones with semi-sentient targeting, gravity disruptor platforms designed to neutralize entire planetary defenses. The entire Sol system was turning into a fortress, and no one knew. Not the Council, not the nearby traders, not even Earth's supposed allies. Earth's real military force had never been shown before because humanity had decided long ago. Never reveal power unless necessary. And now, for the first time in history, it was necessary. Across Mars, Europa, and even hidden rings around Uranus. Old, civilian-looking structures unfolded like flowers, revealing hidden weapons, hidden engines, hidden AI-controlled towers, all connected, all watching. Every corner of Earth's space was alive with defense grids and silent weapons waiting for activation. Vice Admiral Saito looked at the map and spoke to Kestrel. Is the Council aware? The AI responded, no. All scans show civilian traffic, no energy spikes. They believe the border is quiet. Tio nodded. Then they'll keep poking. Let them. But no deaths. We strike only too blind. And so began the second wave non-lethal disruption campaigns. Human ships intercepted Council data routes, scrambled navigation buoys, and corrupted surveillance. Satellites, planets near Earth's border, found themselves cut off from communication, but they didn't know who to blame. Earth's name never appeared. Its ships were never seen. They were phantoms, and the Council was growing nervous. Aside, Concordia, meetings grew tense. Delegates argued. Was it the Varnathi? The Zolthan pirates? A rogue AI? No one suspected Earth. Mira Shao kept listening. She attended every meeting. She watched the council's fear grow. They still believed Earth was weak, but something out there was moving. Something dangerous. Back on Titan, the fleet doubled in size within days. New ships formed silent lines in deep orbit, their shapes cloaked with magnetic mirrors and thermal shrouds. No light escaped, no sound. Just the silent truth that Earth had prepared, not just for defense, but for domination, if needed. Yet Myra's goal was not war. Her mission was to show the galaxy what humanity had learned in silence, to watch, to build, to prepare. Earth did not want conquest. It wanted respect, wanted peace through strength. But if the galaxy refused to give that respect willingly, then the shadow fleets would make them listen. And as Titan's orbit darkened with the wings of hundreds of Terran warships, the stars above blinked in silence, as if they too had paused to watch what Earth had become. In the cold darkness between stars, where no light reached and no laws held power, the Ghost Fleet moved. Earth's true armada, built in secret and hidden for generations, now began its silent campaign. They were not here to conquer. They were here to deliver a message to the arrogant, the loud, and the blind. Each ship in the Ghost Fleet was a machine of precision, armed with the best of human technology and guided by AIs that had been training in digital simulations for decades. Their hulls were invisible to scanners, their engines made no heat, and their weapons struck without warning. The council still laughed behind closed doors, thinking of Earth as a harmless child playing at diplomacy. They did not know what was coming. The first target was a Varnathi command station near a star called Gliese 74. It was small but important, controlling jump routes and listening stations for half a dozen nearby systems. At 0300 Standard Time, all Varnathi screens went black. No alerts sounded. No alarms screamed. But outside their windows, strange shadows danced across the stars. They rushed to scanners, but nothing showed. Seconds later, every drone in their orbit dropped from the sky. Gravity fields reversed. Communication links shattered. Power systems overloaded and died. Within 1 minute, the station was completely blind. Then came the breach. A silent ship, shaped like a dagger, slid out from the blackness, cut through the defense grid like paper, and attached itself to the outer hull. No explosion, no noise, just a ripple of motion. The station's systems rebooted. Every screen showed the same image, a single human face, Mira Giles. She didn't speak, stared for 5 long seconds before the image faded. The station was left intact, its crew unharmed, but every backup system had been erased, every weapon disabled. Earth could have destroyed them. It didn't. The message was clear. We are here, and you cannot stop us. Across the sector, similar strikes followed. Outposts, military hubs, even elite mercenary stations were hit by ships no one saw coming. They didn't kill. They didn't take. They simply appeared, broke everything the enemy relied on, and vanished. One Varnathi warlord tried to fight back, sending a fleet of 20 warships to defend a mining moon on the edge of council space. They waited 4 days. Then, in the space of 10 minutes, every ship lost navigation, propulsion, and control. When rescue teams arrived, the ships were drifting in perfect formation and harmed, but powerless. Inside, the crew found a strange message etched into every command console. Do not test Earth. The council panicked. Emergency meetings were called. No one knew what was happening. This has the signature of ancient warlords, said one delegate. Perhaps the Kethra have returned, said another. But Earth's impossible. Their ships were weak. Their tech was old. The Odysseys sat docked at Concordia, a dull gray shape, among shining alien vessels. But Earth's ambassador, Mira Shao, knew the truth. She walked through the council halls with calm eyes and a quiet smile. She had warned them. They had laughed. Kana, they whispered. Kana, still, they didn't know. The scale, the heart of Earth's fleet, aboard Oblivion's edge. Vice Admiral Saito studied the responses. No declaration of war, he said. They're still guessing, the AI. Kestrel responded. Recommendation, increase intensity, strike high-value target. Saito paused, then nodded. Proceed. The next hit was not subtle. Heavily guarded Solthon fuel facility, located deep inside their empire, disappeared. No explosion. No survivors. One moment it was there, next it wasn't. It was as if someone had pulled it from reality. The council called an emergency vote. Some wanted sanctions. Some wanted investigations. Others called for war, but they couldn't agree on the enemy. They didn't know who to fight. Earth still acted like nothing had changed. Mira Shao sat in the chamber, silent as usual, until the Arzani delegate pointed at her. You, he growled, your people are behind this. The chamber fell silent. Mira stood slowly, eyes calm. Prove it, she said. The Arzani sputtered, but had nothing. No sensor logs, no transmissions, no debris. Earth had struck, but like shadows, left no trace. And Mira knew that the fear now spreading through the council was more powerful than any weapon from the edge of the galaxy. Human fleets tested advanced weapons, gravity disruptors that bent space, pulse missiles that froze time for a fraction of a second, and silence bombs that made entire ships vanish from sensors. Every test was recorded, every result logged by Kestrel. Earth's war machine was evolving with every strike event. But still, they held back. No deaths, no invasions, only messages. Earth was saying, very clearly, we are done hiding. The council tried to respond. They launched patrols, rebuilt listening posts, and hired mercenaries. None returned. Their people whispered of ghost ships that walked between stars, of humans who could see the future, of a planet that had become a fortress. Some laughed, but fewer now. Most were afraid, because Earth, once ignored, had become a legend, a threat, a force. The ghost fleet had struck without mercy, yet without blood. And every time they left behind a message, not in words, but in silence. You cannot see us, but we see you. The galaxy, once so sure of its power, now shivered in uncertainty. And at the center of it all, Mira Shao waited, watching the council fall into chaos. Knowing this was only the beginning, in the dark halls of the Galactic Council on Concordia, silence had replaced laughter, and fear had taken the place of arrogance. Yet no one dared speak Earth's name aloud, not without proof. Ships were vanishing. Outposts were being shut down without a sound. Navigation maps were failing, showing entire sectors as unreachable or corrupted. As if space itself had been rewritten, and the Council's most powerful empires no longer knew where it was safe to fly. Every time they tried to trace the source, they found nothing. No wreckage, no signals, no enemy fleet, just silence. Mira Zhao sat quietly at her usual seat, her expression calm, eyes sharp, listening to the growing panic that echoed through the chamber. The Zoltan ambassador slammed a scaled fist onto the table and shouted, "Entire systems are disappearing from our star charts. We demand answers." Another delegate hissed in panic, "Our trade lanes are collapsing. Snow ships return from the outer routes. What is doing this?" Some accused black holes. Others blamed time distortions. Theories grew wild, but Mira knew the truth. Wells and space breaking. It was the map being burned on purpose. Back in the Sol system, Vice Admiral Kato Saito stood aboard Oblivion's edge, watching the new strategy unfold. Earth scientists had developed something new, something no alien race had ever imagined: a method to corrupt galactic navigation. Data, using quantum pulses and artificial gravity waves, they could bend space in such a way that Council star maps would begin to lose accuracy. Ships relying on those maps would drift off course, enter voids, or simply vanish into nothingness. Earth hadn't just built ships. It had learned how to blind the galaxy. Kestrel, the ship's sentient AI, monitored each sector like a spider watching its web. The moment the Council probe lit up on the edge of human space, it was flagged, tracked, and erased. Not destroyed, erased, as if it had never existed. Proceed with Phase 4, Saito said. Kestrel's response was immediate, deploying displacement beacons in Sector Delta V, across a dozen hidden launch platforms. Small black devices launched into the void, cloaked in layers of stealth tech. These beacons, once in position, would scatter false gravitational readings, make fake stars appear on sensors, and warp coordinates until nothing in that part of space could be trusted. Trade collapsed. Patrols vanished. Even rescue missions went missing. The galaxy had lost the ability to see clearly. Panic spread like fire. Smugglers whispered about a new human empire rising in the shadows. Mercenary fleets refused jobs near the Sol sector. Civilian traders turned back from routes they'd flown for years, scared of the ghost stars. Cant in the Council. The cracks deepened. The Varnathi accused the Arzani. The Arzani blamed the Zothon. T's raised pointed fingers, too proud to believe Earth could be behind it all. Myra Shao stayed silent, letting the Council crumble from within. When the Arzani finally demanded Earth answer for its role, Mira stood slowly and said, "Earth has done nothing. You insult us, yet you offer no proof." Her words were calm, but each syllable was sharp like a blade. She thought we were small, but perhaps it is your map that is small. The chamber fell quiet, not from respect, but fear. Outside Concordia, a Council cruiser tried to jump to a secure system, only to arrive in a dead zone filled with drifting debris and tire. Colonies erased, every signal silent. The crew didn't even send a report. They turned and fled, afraid they would be next. That night, Myra received a secure message from Kato. Phase 4 complete. Sector visibility reduced by 38%. No enemy has made a successful jump near Sol in 10 days. Mira replied with a single word: excellent. On Titan, more fleets prepared to move. The next phase wasn't about hiding, it was about reshaping the galaxy itself. Earth had decided that maps, borders, and claims meant nothing unless you could defend them. And if the galaxy wanted to laugh, then Earth would erase the stage they stood on. Thousands of Council territories now had no access to their outer systems. Stations that once provided food, fuel, and energy were gone, vanished from memory, removed from charts. And in their place, Earth left nothing but silence. That silence grew louder than any war cry. Delegates stopped arguing and started begging for answers, begging for someone to stop the unseen force that now moved through the stars. The Council voted to send an elite fleet into the Lost Zones, made up of ships from 6 different empires, armed with their best tech. But when that fleet jumped into Sector 19A, nothing came back. For weeks, the Council waited. Then, on the morning of the vote to declare emergency war, every delegate received the same signal: a short burst of sound, followed by static, and then a simple message: your maps are lies. Your power is an illusion. Earth sees you. Signal came from nowhere and everywhere. No trace, no origin. Just the truth delivered in one sharp whisper. Myra Shao walked through the council's great hall that day like a shadow in human form. No one dared stop her. She passed beneath the banners of empires that had once laughed at Earth and now trembled. Outside the window, the stars shined, as usual, but to the council, space no longer felt like freedom. It felt like a trap, a maze, controlled by hands they could not see. And far away, deep beneath Titan's eyes, Earth's final war plan began. Not to destroy the galaxy, but to remake it, one burned map at a time. The council chamber on Concordia, once bright with banners and busy with voices, now stood quiet under low lights, filled with tension so thick it was hard to breathe, and only the hum of the security field around the dome reminded them that the galaxy had not completely fallen apart, at least not yet. Delegates from all corners of the known universe sat around the central ring, their faces pale, their robes wrinkled, their guards nervous. Only a few days ago, entire systems had stopped responding. Colonies went dark. Fleets disappeared without battles. Entire sectors had become dead zones, not due to war but because the maps had changed, maybe stopped mattering altogether. No one trusted star charts anymore. No one trusted each other, and the name Earth now carried a weight heavier than any weapon. Myra Shao walked into the chamber without ceremony, dressed in simple gray. No guards, no symbols, just her presence. Eyes followed her, some filled with hatred, most with fear. She had spoken little over the last months, but every word had echoed through the galaxy. She sat down quietly, waiting, watching. The high speaker, a tall Arzani with thin golden skin and glowing eyes, stood and called the meeting to order, though his voice trembled. "This is the final session," he said. "The council must decide war or surrender." The room gasped at the word, surrender, to Earth. But what choice remained? The last United Fleet had vanished. Probes sent into Earth-controlled sectors never returned. Merchant guilds had halted trade routes. Refugees poured into central systems from the rim, whispering stories of invisible ships, of entire cities made to vanish, or black ships shaped like blades that passed through enemy space without a trace. One Sultan delegate rose and shouted, "We must attack Earth before they strike again." Mira tilted her head, her eyes still. "We have not struck," she said. "We have only shown you that your weapons are useless." The delegate screamed, "Lies! You erased our colonies." Mira nodded. "We removed the things you used to control others. That is not the same as killing." The chamber erupted. Some delegates shouted for peace, others for war, but none had clear answers. Then, one by one, holoprojectors blinked to life around the room, showing silent footage, dozens of ships drifting through empty space, systems offline, untouched but helpless. They were the last remnants of the council's mighty fleets, captured and left to float like reminders of failure. Each bore the mark of Earth's ghost fleet. A single silver line cut across the hall. The high speaker looked around, his voice now quiet. "They have not destroyed us, okay, but they have made it clear that they can." Then he turned to Mira. "What does Earth want?" Mira stood slowly, her voice calm, steady, too quiet for how deeply it cut. "We want no throne. We want no empire. What Earth wants is an end to your lies, your maps, your illusion of order. We want a galaxy where no child starves under your taxes, where no moon is mined until it breaks, where no race is forced to kneel for credits. You called us weak. You said we were too young, but we have watched, we have learned. While you laughed, we built. While you fought, we listened. And now we act." The silence after words was long. Then an elderly Varnathi, his eyes heavy, said, "And if we refuse?" Mira's face did not change. "Then your stars will go dark, one by one, and you will not. Know why? A long pause followed. Then a quiet voice spoke from the shadows, a young Ilari diplomat, barely of age, her wings folded tightly. So, this is not a war. It is a correction. Mira looked at her and nodded once. Exactly. The room shifted. Some delegates leaned forward. Others leaned back. The illusion was crumbling. The High Speaker turned to the council. You must vote. Now, surrender authority, dissolve the council, or prepare for consequences. One by one, the votes came. Many abstained, too frightened to decide, but enough voted yes. The council would be dissolved. No more rule from Concordia. No more shared fleets. No more fake unity. They would return to their own stars, rebuild on their own terms, or not at all. Mira Shao turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. You may find, in time, that freedom tastes better than power. Earth does not seek to rule. We seek to remind that the stars belong to all. Then she was gone. In the last council meeting ended, not with cheers, not with explosions, but with silence, and the slow, fearful realization that the galaxy was no longer what it had been. It had changed, and Earth had changed it. Quietly, finally, completely. The stars were quiet now, scattered across the black like cold lanterns. No longer watched by the heavy eyes of the Galactic Council, no longer trapped by borders drawn in. Greed, and as the final echoes of the old order faded, Earth stood, not as a conqueror, but as something deeper and unseen force that had reached into the heart of the galaxy and changed its rhythm forever. On Titan, beneath the thick layers of ice and stone, Vice Admiral Kaito Saito stood alone in the command chamber of the hidden base known as Veil Point, staring at a wide screen that displayed the galaxy not as it was, but as it could be, a place without chains, without empires, without masters. Beside him, the AI Kestrel spoke in a soft voice. Council fleet fragments are scattering. Local governments are isolating. And former allies are now seeking Earth's advice, not its destruction. And though the tone was factual, there was something in it almost like pride, or the start of something close to peace. Earth had not crushed its enemies with force, not in the usual way. Yet, its silence had spoken louder than 1,000 battles, for every time another map was burned. A new path had quietly opened in its place, and where once fear ruled, now curiosity began to flicker. Mira Zhao stood at the edge of a new beginning, aboard the diplomatic ship Whisper of Dawn, which now floated quietly in orbit around Concordia, its weapons off, its message clear. Earth was done hiding, but not here, too rulingly to guide, to protect what was left from falling back into the darkness. Aboard her ship, the halls were filled not with soldiers, but with thinkers, fielders, teachers, and scientist people trained to listen before they spoke. People who had seen what happened when empires grew too loud and too proud. Across the stars, other species began to change, first in small ways, then in larger steps. Colonies, once ignored by the council, were now being helped. Trade routes, once blocked by red tape, were suddenly open, and whispers spread that Earth had agents not just in space, but on every world, guiding, watching, protecting. Some feared this, of course, afraid that Earth would become the new council. But those who met Earth's people soon learned the truth. They didn't tell others what to do, they simply asked questions that others were afraid to ask. And in that way, they changed more than any law or war ever could. Still, not all threats were gone. Not all enemies had vanished. For deep in the far reaches of uncharted space, strange signals had begun to stole machines waking up, long dead weapons flickering back to life. And while the council had been too busy fighting itself to notice, Earth had watched quietly and patiently, knowing the real storm was still coming. Mira stared out the window of her ship. her reflection faint against the stars, and said, mostly to herself, "They think we wanted victory, but what we really wanted was silence, a moment to listen." And Kestrel, now present in the ship's systems, replied, "And what we hear now is a galaxy trying to heal, trying to learn how to breathe without being told how to do it." And, though Myra didn't answer, she smiled just a little, 'cause she knew that silence held power, but only when it came with promise. Back on Earth, the world itself had changed, no longer crowded with fear of invasion, no longer clinging to its past, but reaching out through the stars with hands that offered not chains, but seeds, not orders, but knowledge. In small villages and great cities across the planet, people watched the stars, not with dread, but with wonder. Children grew up not learning the names of conquerors, but the names of systems, now free. Even the Ghost Fleet, once the symbol of Earth's hidden fury, had been scattered, not to attack, but to protect. They waited in the dark, unseen and patient, a silent promise that no tyrant would rise again without resistance. That was the greatest shift of all. That Earth, once mocked, had not simply won, but had reshaped the very idea of strength, proving that sometimes the sharpest blade is not the one that strikes, but the one kept hidden, only drawn when needed, and used with care. As the ship Whisper of Dawn moved away from Concordia for the last time, leaving behind the ruins of the Council and the shadows of old power, Mira sat alone in her quiet chamber, reading a message sent by a child on a mining moon once forgotten, by the galaxy's 6 simple words that meant more than any speech ever could. "Thank you. We are not alone." And as the engines hummed and the stars passed by in gentle silence, Earth's work continued, not as rulers, not as watchers, but as quiet builders in the dark, keeping the promise made, not with noise, not with weapons, but with truth and with the steady hand of a species that had once been laughed at, but now carried the stars in their grasp, not to own, but to protect.